Well, welcome to the webinar, everyone. Another Wednesday, another opportunity to learn a few things that might help us make informed decisions as consumers, but more importantly, help us achieve the health goals that we want to achieve, as well as also have the opportunity to maybe also share some information with some folks that may be making what they believe to be informed decisions, but maybe making them based upon facts that aren't necessarily factual, and that will make more sense here in just a second. But today's topic is about protein shakes. Both whey and plant-based protein shakes are everywhere. If you walk down your grocery store aisles now, you see them all over the place. In fact, there's usually an entire aisle now dedicated to them. Obviously, they've been in health stores forever. You're now starting to see them even in convenience stores, and obviously they're all over gyms. But what are they actually? What are the ingredient profiles that you should be looking for? But most importantly, how do you compare one against the other? How do you know that you're getting the value that you think that you are? But most importantly, why do you need them? Are they an important part of our diet? And the real reason why they came about was because a lot of people just weren't getting the protein that they needed in their diet, and that is evidenced by the fact that we have a very large portion of the population that has a weight problem, and it's not just protein related. But the reality is there's fitness relation. There is too much sugar in our diet. There's too much salt in our diet. There's not enough exercise. There's not enough physical activity. By the way, physical activity is just moving again. It's not necessarily joining a gym and lifting heavy things above your head. But protein plays a big part in that because protein is the builder of muscle. And the more lean muscle we have, the better metabolism we have. And the better metabolism we have, the lower fat content we have on our body, and the more that we can consume and maintain our weight. As we lose our lean muscle mass, our metabolism slows and our waistline grows. That's just the that's the bad side of the aging process. So we got to do something about that. And one of the main ways to do it is to feed our body an appropriate amount of protein as we're trying to build that lean muscle to protect ourselves. But in addition to that, in addition to the weight problem, we have a fat problem. Our body fat percentages are off the charts. So many people, they want to gauge their health based upon their weight. And we at ID Life, we teach people that that's just not the true measure of health. Weight is not the true measure of whether or not you are living a healthy lifestyle. Body fat percentage is. The men's average body fat percentage in this country is 28.1%. Women's is now at 40%. And healthy for men is between 10 and 22, and for women 20 to 32. And in fact, ladies, if you haven't seen, 2017 marked a first in the history of us keeping records where the female population in the United States is actually the heavier demographic now. Yes, that means that women are now a heavier population than men in the U.S. for the first time in history, or I should say first time in recorded history. It is just a reality that women have a more difficult time building and maintaining lean muscle mass, and it has nothing to do with more than anything else other than just not as many women are as active for whatever reason. It can be time, it can be taking care of the family, it can be taking care of everyone else other than yourself. What if nothing else, if you learn nothing else today, you need to understand that in order to care for others, you have to care for yourself first. So we really want to make sure that we dispel the myth that women cannot grow muscle the way that men can grow muscle. Granted, you may not look as big as a man, but guess what? You can put on just as much lean muscle. You can be just as fit. You can be just as healthy. In fact, more so. But the reality is we are starting to have an issue where people are using excuses or time or some other reason why they're not putting lean muscle on their body. And you can see these fat percentages as they continue to grow and get worse year after year, and protein plays a big role in that. Here is the byproduct of a high fat percentage and a high weight in so many Americans, and a lack of lean muscle. We end up with a very high diabetes problem. There's 100+ million Americans that are walking around as diabetic or pre-diabetic right now. That's 1 in 3. 1 in 3 Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. 28% plus don't even know it, which means they're walking into some serious disasters. But our childhood obesity epidemic has gotten so bad that we have now dropped the term adult onset diabetes and we just call it type 2 diabetes. And you can see the numbers and how it's jumped. But here's the thing that most people don't appreciate or understand. People see this all the time and they're thinking, well, diabetes, I can treat it with a pill. I can change my diet if it ever happens to me. I can do these various things. But most people don't appreciate that the number one killer in this country, other than hand to mouth disease, which is our hand finding our mouth way too often with the wrong thing, is something called heart disease. Diabetes is kind of the warning sign for the human body of what's to come. See, most people don't appreciate that people with diabetes are going to die from heart disease or stroke 68% of the time. So, yeah, I want that to set in. Diabetics will die from heart disease or stroke 68% of the time. They don't they don't die of the diabetes. They die of heart disease and stroke, which are caused or contributed to or are a leading factor in the diabetes itself. So diabetes is the warning sign. If you're pre-diabetic, guess what? Your body is telling you you are going to have heart disease and stroke if you don't make a change. If you don't start putting lean muscle on your body, start taking care of yourself, start moving again, start building that muscle so that you can increase that metabolism, lower that sugar addiction, and change your diet and lifestyle, this is what your future looks like. This is your crystal ball, so to speak. People say all the time, well, if I only knew what the future held, I might make some changes. Well, guess what? If you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, you know what the future holds because you're looking at it. It's right there in front of you. Here's another issue. More than 50% of Americans skip breakfast. Number one reason for skipping breakfast is that don't have time. Well, the great thing about protein shakes, whey protein shakes, and plant-based protein shakes is it doesn't take a lot of time. In fact, if you have a shaker cup, access to water, and a protein powder sitting on the counter, in less than 1 minute, you can have breakfast. So no more can time be the excuse, but more than 50% of Americans every single day skip breakfast. And I should tell you, teenagers, it's closer to 80%. But what does that mean? You've always heard breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Let's just look at some observational studies. Breakfast eaters are more health conscious, engage in physical activity more regularly, maintain a healthier weight, and are more likely to maintain weight loss. Now, these are independent third-party peer-reviewed studies. These are observational studies based upon looking at thousands of different people. This is what they found about breakfast eaters. What about people that skip breakfast? Well, breakfast skippers are more likely to be overweight, smoke more, drink more alcohol, and exercise less. That's just what they observed. Of the group that they found skipping breakfast, this is what the future held for them. And of course, there have now been over 100 independent studies that have all linked skipping breakfast with an increased risk of obesity. So if you're struggling with your health, if you want to improve your health and wellness, if you want to get into better shape and just make a change, one of the things you might want to consider is stop skipping breakfast. And if time is an issue, guess what? These whey and plant-based protein shakes are a great way to avoid the biggest reason why or excuse why people skip breakfast, which is time. The other thing that you should know that 80% of the people in the National Weight Control Registry, and if you don't know what that is, you need to look it up. It's got a lot of really interesting information about people that not only lost weight but kept it off for long periods of time. But 80% of the people in the National Weight Control Registry who lost 30 pounds and kept it off for at least a year ate breakfast on a regular basis. So, even if you don't want to, or if you want to argue the science, is it necessary? Do I want to do intermittent fasting? Do I want to only eat one meal a day, or do I want to eat, whatever your belief is? What you need to understand is if you're struggling with your health and wellness, and you're just looking at the people that have been successful and not only improving their health, but maintaining it for long periods of time, at least in this particular study, 80% of them ate breakfast on a regular basis as part of their healthy lifestyle goals. That's just something, and most people don't appreciate or understand that breakfast comes from the concept of breaking the fast because you're fasting while you're sleeping. So that's where the word came from. So just a little bit of word logic there for you. Here's the other issue that we have, and a great place where protein shakes like whey and plant-based proteins can really jump in. Americans have a snacking problem. Is that a myth or a fact? Well, it's an absolute fact. In fact, if you look at the numbers, the average daily intake of calories for men and women in this country is now at 2,375. Most people will tell you a 2,000 calorie diet is healthy for women. It's usually around 16 to 1,700. It's only because women are smaller than men on average as far as size. So as a result, it's kind of skewed in that direction. But the reality is, if we look at the recommended 2,000 calorie diet, we are well in excess of that because we're at 375 over that number. But our snacking, this is our mindless grabbing of food in between meals. Men were now at 586 calories. Women were at 421 calories, and that's on average. One of the things a lot of people do when they start a healthy conscious change is they'll put almonds on their desk and they'll grab 3 handfuls, not understanding that yes, almonds can be healthy, but too many almonds, like 3 handful of almonds, can be as much as 900 to over 1,000 calories right there. It's crazy that we do this on a regular basis. We do this mindlessly, and we do this to the detriment of our overall health and wellness. One of the great things is if you have that snacking issue, you could grab one of these protein shakes and really feed your body a high quality protein, but at the same time greatly reduce these caloric numbers. So let's look at whey protein. What does science tell us about whey protein? Well, we know for a fact, based upon all the scientific studies that have been done on whey protein, that it can help reduce body fat. It can protect muscle. It can reduce heart attacks. It can lower blood pressure. It can balance cholesterol, improve glucose levels. That's if you have diabetes-related issues. And it can increase energy. I mean, these are all, there's been hundreds and thousands of studies done on whey protein shakes. So you can go out there and read them. This is just kind of a bullet point example of some of the things that these studies have found with regard to what they were looking that whey protein can do. But are all whey protein shakes created the same? No. IdeaLife created a protein shake that only has 7 ingredients. The whey protein shakes at IdeaLife only have 7 ingredients, only the highest quality protein available, sourced from grass-fed cows. And cold filtered, so there's no denatured protein. It's micro-milled chia seed is blended into them. There's no label paint, cheap ingredients. And it tastes amazing. That's the best part about it. But a lot of people say they have the best product, but there's a lot of things out there on the market. How good is IdeaLife? How does IdeaLife's protein shake, really stand up to all of the others that are out there? Well, if you look at the facts and just look at the straight line numbers, you can start doing some comparisons for yourself. So let's start out with this. IdeaLife has no soy, no artificial ingredients. Now that's important. Soy, 95% of it now in the U.S. is genetically modified. Not only that, it also has an effect on men. Because if you're talking about real food soy, something that's a whole food soy derived from its original source, not something that's processed, not something that's artificial, you can find some benefits there. But unfortunately, so much of it is processed and artificial, and it's going to have an estrogenic effect. And we have a large population of men that are starting to grow, what they call man boobs and have issues like breast cancer increases that are off the charts for men. A lot of scientists and a lot of doctors have linked that directly to our overconsumption of soy and other estrogenic products. In addition to that, IdeaLife has taken the stance that we're not going to use artificial ingredients. We're going to use ingredients that the body is going to recognize and know what to do with. So if you just kind of look at the other products out there and you say, okay, if I want to avoid soy and I want to avoid artificial ingredients, really, on a comparison standpoint, you're basically putting IdeaLife against Beachbody Shakeology and Isagenix Isolane Shake. And when you compare the two side by side, what you find is, from a cost perspective, there really is no comparison. $1 per serving cheaper, or more. On the protein level, IdeaLife is right there, 23 grams of protein, 23 grams of high quality protein. And this is out without even looking at the sourcing of the whey protein coming from these other manufacturers. Sodium is way below that. And of course, the fat content is low as well with a nice fiber content. So Side by side comparison, looking at it, looking at price, looking at taste. I mean, taste. I'd put ours against anybody's. The fact is, ID Life does have the highest quality protein shake available, hands down. Facts don't lie; they are what they are. But let's look at plant-based proteins. The benefits of plant-based proteins include easily digestible because you're talking about a plant now. There is no lactose. There's no casein. There's no milk proteins or anything like that. So if you have those lactose intolerance issues, you don't have them with a plant-based protein. They're non-allergenic, which means you don't have the allergy potential issues that you have with lactose in whey protein shakes, which means and they're also alkaline forming, which means they're non-inflammatory, or actually they can help reduce inflammation in the body, which is a positive. And then of course there's no cholesterol. If you're dealing with heart-related issues or heart problems and you're concerned about cholesterol, plant-based proteins give you that no cholesterol effect. So these are some of the other, and there's hundreds of other benefits, but the idea is these are the four that you can look at real quick if you're looking at using a plant-based protein. But ID Life created its vegan shake not for the vegans and vegetarians of the world necessarily, but mainly because so many Americans, now over 75% of Americans, are not getting their fruits and vegetables every day. And this includes 6 servings of fruits and vegetables. Yes, there's reds and there's greens in there. Also has chia, flax, and quinoa, superfoods that the body gets great benefit from. And also has a great source of fiber and branched chain amino acids. But it also tastes great. That's the one thing. We would literally put our vegan shake against anybody else's on a taste test. There's so many out there that just taste awful. Ours tastes amazing. You get 20 grams of plant-based protein, and it's gluten, soy, and GMO free. So how does it compare? All right, let's look at the other leading sellers in the marketplace. Well, when you're doing side by side comparison and you're actually just looking at the facts, what are the ingredients? Here's how it plays out. From a price standpoint, again, ID Life is right there competitive with just about everybody. You have the Herbalife product and the Advocare product that are cheaper, but you're about to see why they're cheaper. On the sugar content, no sugar in the ID Life Vegan Shake. We use stevia to sweeten everything. You see the 20 grams of protein. Most companies don't get there. The Vega and the Isogenics did get there with their plant-based proteins, which is a positive. One quick note on the Herbalife and the Advocare products. One of the reasons why we don't have to necessarily compare ourselves to those. The Herbalife product, has soy and artificial ingredients in their product, which obviously our stance on that. And the Advocare Greens product, it just only has 13 grams of protein. It's not a lot. It's not a huge source of protein. So as a result, we're not necessarily going to compare ourselves to that. The Isogenics product, though, at 24 grams of protein, when you put them side by side, you notice some things. First, ours is much cheaper. If it gets down to a price issue for you as the consumer, then price is, there's no doubt. Like I said, we'll compare ourselves taste against anybody. Sugars, we don't have any. They have 7. Their sodium is higher. Their fiber is higher, but they also have a high fat content as well. But, I do applaud them for not using soy or artificial ingredients, because that is 2 things that people are looking for when they're looking for a plant-based protein shake. This is probably the #1 retail product, or at least it is, I know, in Whole Foods when it comes to a vegan or vegetarian shake. But from a price per serving standpoint, we stand right there, much better, almost $1 a serving cheaper. But everything else compares pretty comparable. So if you're really looking at something and all other things being created equal, the best thing to do is to look at 2 things, price and taste. And again, ID Life will put its vegan shake from a taste standpoint against anybody's, because ours tastes absolutely amazing. From a price standpoint, per serving, we're cheaper than them as well. The whole idea behind these Wednesday Lunch and Learns is to teach people that there are options, choices, and other things that we do on a daily basis, sometimes mindlessly, sometimes based upon a belief system, because we heard somebody say something or we read something somewhere and it just becomes fact. I get to see people all the day that reference Wikipedia as a factual source of information and don't understand where that information comes from and how it can be manipulated or changed. It's when you really get down to the facts of things, healthy living is based upon three things: diet, lifestyle, nutrition. The whole idea behind these Wednesday Lunch and Learns is to provide people information about their diet, information about their lifestyle, and information about how the choices in their diet and lifestyle create the nutritional gaps that require them to fill with supplementation. I hope that's what you're getting out of these. Today's presentation was all about protein shakes and why they exist and how they can be fit into your healthy lifestyle and how they can help in your health journey, especially if you're struggling with your weight or diabetes or heart related issues or snacking issues or anything else. They are great sources of protein, easy, convenient, time effective, but most importantly, they are going to help you do something that everybody needs. Everybody needs more lean muscle mass on their body. It increases metabolism, it increases energy levels, it increases overall health and wellness. Take advantage of what's out there, but make sure that you're an informed consumer and look at what's available and make the best choice for you and your family. That's what ID Life is all about.